In the dim glow of a roadside diner's neon sign, under a sky bruised with the purple hues of twilight, a group of burly bikers roared into the parking lot, their Harleys thundering like distant storms. Leather-clad and tattooed, they dismounted with the easy swagger of men who owned the road, their laughter booming as they spotted a lone teenage girl huddled on the curb, her oversized jacket swallowing her slight frame. She was no more than 16, her hair tangled from the wind, her eyes downcast as she clutched a worn backpack, waiting for a ride that seemed eternally delayed. The bikers, hardened by miles of asphalt and countless barroom brawls, zeroed in on her like wolves sensing vulnerability. One of them, a grizzled giant with a beard like twisted wire, pointed at her jacket and let out a mocking guffaw that echoed across the lot, drawing chuckles from his companions as they mimicked its faded patches and frayed edges, calling it a pathetic hand-me-down from some thrift store reject. Little did they know, that jacket held a story woven from threads of sacrifice and sorrow, a tale that would soon silence their ridicule and pierce the armor of their tough exteriors, revealing hearts not so different from her own. If this opening has already tugged at your heartstrings and you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, share this video with someone who needs a reminder of humanity's warmth, and don't forget to subscribe to Gentle Hearts for more stories that celebrate the gentle side of life. Emily had always felt like an outsider in her small town, a place where the flatlands stretched endlessly under relentless sun, and dreams seemed to evaporate like morning dew. Orphaned at 12 when a drunk driver claimed her parents on a rain-slicked highway, she bounced between foster homes, each one a temporary cage of indifference or outright neglect. The jacket was her only constant, a relic from her father, a former Marine who had traded his combat boots for a motorcycle after serving 2 tours in Afghanistan. He had worn it on long rides through the countryside, the wind whipping away the ghosts of war that haunted him, and on quiet evenings, he would wrap it around Emily's shoulders, telling her stories of camaraderie and courage under fire. The leather still carried the faint scent of his aftershave mixed with engine oil, a comforting ghost that she clung to during nights when loneliness clawed at her chest. But in school, that jacket marked her as different, too big, too old, too masculine, and the whispers turned to taunts, kids labeling her the biker wannabe, or worse, assuming she was trouble just because of its rugged appearance. She learned to shrink into herself, avoiding eye contact, her grades slipping as depression wrapped its cold fingers around her spirit, making every day a battle to simply get out of bed. The challenges mounted like storm clouds on the horizon. Her latest foster family, the Millers, were kind enough on the surface but overwhelmed with their own brood, leaving Emily to fend for herself in a crowded house where she was just another mouth to feed. She dreamed of escaping, of hitting the open road like her father once did, but reality pinned her down. No money, no skills, and a growing fear that she was unlovable, unworthy of the second chances life seemed to grant others so freely. One particularly brutal afternoon, after enduring a barrage of mockery in the school cafeteria over her jacket's stupid patches, she fled to the diner on the town's edge, a greasy spoon frequented by truckers and transients, hoping to hitch a ride to anywhere but here. The bikers' arrival shattered her fragile solitude, their laughter cut deeper than any schoolyard insult, reminding her of how exposed she felt, how the world saw her as a joke rather than a survivor. She pulled the jacket tighter, fighting back tears, her mind flashing to memories of her father patching it up after a spill, his strong hands steady despite the tremors from his PTSD. As the bikers drew closer, one of them tossed a crumpled napkin her way, jeering about her tough girl act, and Emily's heart pounded with a mix of fear and defiance, wondering if this was the moment she finally broke. Yet, in that crucible of humiliation, something shifted. The lead biker, the one with the booming laugh, paused mid-stride, his eyes narrowing on a small, embroidered patch sewn discreetly on the jacket's sleeve, a faded emblem of the Purple Heart, flanked by the insignia of her father's unit, the one that had seen the bloodiest battles in Helmand Province. The laughter died in his throat as recognition dawned, his face paling under the diner's flickering lights. He had served too, in a different war but with the same scars, and that patch wasn't just fabric, it was a badge of honor, a silent testament to lives lost and valor earned. The other bikers followed his gaze, their postures changing from predatory to reverent, murmurs rippling through the group as they pieced together the story etched in that worn leather. One by one, they approached not with mockery but with quiet respect, the grizzled giant kneeling down to her level, his voice softening as he shared fragments of his own past, tales of brothers in arms and the jackets that carried their legacies. Emily, stunned into silence at first, felt the walls around her heart crack. For the first time in years, she wasn't invisible or ridiculed, she was seen, truly seen, as the daughter of a hero, a girl carrying a weight far heavier than her years. The encounter unfolded like a slow dawn breaking over the darkened plains, the bikers forming a protective circle around her as the diner's patrons watched from afar. The lead biker, whose name was Jax, pulled out a faded photo from his wallet, showing a younger version of himself in fatigues, flanked by men who looked much like Emily's father in the old albums she cherished. He spoke of the nightmares that still woke him, the guilt of surviving when others didn't, and how the road had become his therapy, the rumble of engines drowning out the echoes of gunfire. Emily, her voice trembling at first, opened up about her loss, the accident that stole her family, the foster system that treated her like luggage, and how the jacket was her armor against a world that kept knocking her down. The others chimed in with their own stories, divorces, addictions, brushes with the law, revealing that beneath their tough exteriors lay vulnerabilities as raw as her own. One biker, a quiet man with scars across his knuckles, admitted to laughing because it was easier than facing his own pain, and in that admission, Emily saw a mirror of her isolation, a shared humanity that bridged the gap between stranger and kindred spirit. As the night deepened, the group's dynamic transformed. What began as ridicule evolved into mentorship, the bikers offering her a ride not to escape but to find her way back. Jax insisted on checking her into a nearby motel for the night, pooling their cash to cover the cost, and in the morning, they escorted her home, their bikes forming a convoy that turned heads in her sleepy town. Word spread quickly, the girl in the hero's jacket, the bikers who bowed to her legacy, and suddenly, the taunts at school quieted, replaced by curious glances and tentative friendships. Emily's foster parents, moved by the story she shared, began to see her not as a burden but as a resilient soul deserving of their full attention. Enrolling her in counseling and even gifting her a small motorcycle manual to honor her father's passion. She started journaling her thoughts, turning pain into prose, and found solace in weekend rides with Jax and his crew, who became the family she had lost, teaching her to navigate both the roads and the twists of life with grace. The changes came gradually, like seasons shifting across the landscape. Emily's grades improved as confidence bloomed, her once downcast eyes now meeting the world with a spark of determination. She volunteered at a local veterans center, sharing her father's stories and the jacket's significance, inspiring others to open up about their hidden battles. The bikers, too, found redemption in her presence. Jax quit his heavy drinking, motivated by the reminder of what true strength looked like, and the group started a charity run in honor of fallen soldiers, raising funds for foster kids like Emily. Challenges lingered, of course. Grief doesn't vanish overnight, and there were days when the weight of loss threatened to pull her under, but now she had a network, a patchwork family stitched together by empathy and understanding. The jacket, once a source of shame, became a symbol of pride, its patches gleaming brighter in her mind's eye, a beacon guiding her toward healing. In the end, as Emily stood on a hill overlooking the town, the wind tousling her hair and the jacket fitting her like a second skin, she realized that second chances aren't handed out, they're forged in moments of vulnerability, when ridicule gives way to recognition, and strangers become saviors. The bikers' laughter had been a catalyst, shutting them up not with anger but with awe, reminding everyone that beneath every tough exterior lies a story waiting to be honored. Her journey from isolation to inspiration proved that kindness could rewrite even the harshest narratives, turning pain into purpose and loss into legacy. If this story has touched your heart, stirred emotions you didn't expect, or reminded you of the quiet heroes in your own life, please like this video, comment below with your favorite part or a similar story from your experiences, share it far and wide, and subscribe to Gentle Hearts for more tales that celebrate compassion and resilience. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. Comment your favorite line from this story down below, and let's keep the conversation going about the power of unexpected connections.